Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to IncubatorCTX Speaker Series. My name is Kristen Spindler, and I'm the Director of IncubatorCTX, and I'm also faculty at Concordia. So today, you're very lucky. We have Cindy Villanueva, who's going to speak with us about finding your passion. And Cindy's passionate about two things, marketing and martial arts. Today, you're going to learn some tools about how to live your want-to life rather than your have-to life. Cindy is very accomplished, and she has done many things in her life. A few of them are that she's a marketing and communications specialist. She is a black belt and teaches students as well. She's a branding expert. She's an adjunct at Concordia in the marketing department. And she's also a mother of 4 adult children and 2 grandchildren. So today, the format for her talk is she's going to give her presentation for about 35-40 minutes, and then we'll leave the remainder of the hour for questions and discussion. So if you have a question, hold it until she's done. We'll have plenty of time to talk. And with that, let's give it up. Let's give a warm Concordia welcome for Cindy Villanueva.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, it's always a joy to be here. This is one of my favorite places in Austin. Not only am I an adjunct here, but I did my MBA here as well. So I'm a student and a teacher, and it's really lovely to be here with you tonight for today, this afternoon. I'm all bedazzled. I have to tell you, I got up at 3 o'clock this morning to make my flight to get to Austin from Florida. So if I get a little stuck on stupid, you'll understand and give me a little bit of grace. So we're going to talk today about finding passion and moving from that have-to life to the want-to life that we all would love to have. Where do I just hit it? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me. You got a very nice introduction from Kristen. Thank you so much. Talk about what passion actually is, because you hear that word all the time, but what does it really mean? Why is it important? Why is it important that we have passion in our lives? And then how do you find it? Once you define it, how do you figure out what that is? How do you get to that want-to life? And then once you figure it out, what do you do next? Because it's really nice to figure it out and then go, yeah, but great, what do I do? And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about how we can stay in touch. All right, so a little bit about me. So as Kristen was saying, I do a lot of stuff. I do adjuncting work. I usually only teach 1 class a semester because I also have my marketing consulting job. I own a martial arts studio. As she said, I'm a 7th degree master instructor. My youngest son, Tristan, over here, he's a 4th degree black belt. All 3 of my sons are black belts. And yeah, so I'm really, really busy. I'm also an author. Published 2 books already, working on a 3rd. I'm working on my 1st novel. So there's a lot of stuff. I work a lot. I work probably, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. But you know what? It's stuff I really, really love to do. I'm not grinding every week doing things that I'm miserable at doing. I'm doing things that I really, really love. I love this quote from Nelson Mandela. It is impossible. You just can't live small. You have to find a way to live the life you were entitled to live, the life you were designed to live. We're not put on this earth to just play small. Now, that doesn't mean every single one of us is going to be a CEO in a big corner office and have that multi-million-dollar mansion and all that stuff. I live in a little itty-bitty cottage. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the presentation. I don't drive a big fancy car or any of those kinds of things, but I live a life of passion and I live a life of want-tos. So what's passion? You hear that word all the time. It gets thrown around. I'm really passionate about this. I'm really passionate about that. Don't waste time just throwing the word around. What does it really, really mean? Think about it as the want to versus the have to. We think about have tos as things that we're obligated to do, things that we have to do in our lives because we're a student or because we work at a particular job or because we're in a particular family. There's things that we have to do. And you always have those want tos that are kind of floating around in your mind. Passion is what drives those want tos. And think about the things that really light you up. I want to talk a little bit more about that once we get to the how part of this. But I want you to think about the things that you do that you just light up. That's passion. So why is it important that you even have passion in your life? Why can't you just go through life having to go to school, get a job, have 2.1 children, have the corner office? Why not just have a have-to life? What's important about having passion in your life? What does that allow you to do? Well, it does a lot of things for us. Passion energizes us. When you're doing something that you're really passionate about, you're energized. When you're doing the stuff that you just have to do, it's hard to get really psyched up about that stuff. It's hard to dredge up the energy to do that. When you are doing the things that you're passionate about, you wake up in the morning, you jump out of bed, you're ready to get to it. When you're living simply from the have-tos, it's like snooze, hit the snooze button one more time. Does that make sense? Passion gives you the energy to do and go beyond what you think that you could do. Also, it focuses us. When we're passionate about something, we're really focused on that. It doesn't matter what the distractions are. When you're doing stuff that you just have to do, oh, it's so easy to get distracted. Like, I really have to work on this particular thing, but oh, wait, there's something on my phone. Oh, wait, there's somebody calling me. Oh, wait, there's a bird chirping outside my window. It's so easy to get distracted when we're looking at the things that we just kind of have to do. When it's the things that we want to do, and we're laser focused on those things. We don't shift. We don't get distracted. Time flies by. We don't even know what's happened because we're completely zeroed in on those things that are really, really important, that we really believe are. And lastly, it sparks creativity. When you're passionate about something, you're always looking for some other way to do it. Is there another way that I can be involved in this particular activity? Is there something I'm missing? Is there some new angle to this thing that I'm passionate about? And so you're always thinking about new ways, better ways, faster, smoother, more exciting ways to do the things that you're passionate about. So passion is really important because can you be energized, focused, and creative if you just have a have-to life? Sure, you can. But it's a lot more work. It's a lot more difficult. And when you're passionate about your life, when you have those things in your life that are just true want-tos, all of these things become a lot easier. Man, I am really having challenges with this button. Okay, so how do you find it? It's like, okay, Cindy, I get it. There's things I have to do. There's things I want to do. How do I find the passion in my life? Now, this is where I want to spend the biggest chunk of our time today on. And this is something that I'm going to make these slides available to you guys. This is something I really, really want you to concentrate on and invest the time in. So this is your homework for this presentation. You're going to do an inventory or an audit of your last week. Now, if that seems too daunting, I want you to at least do very minimum of 3 days. It's great if you can do all 7, but at a very minimum, I want you to do 3 days. At least one of those days has to be a weekend. So what do I mean by that inventory? I'm going to give you a sheet, and you're going to get it in the slides that I want you to do, but I want you to set some time aside. And I want you to not say, okay, I've got 30 minutes, I'm going to squeeze this in. That's not going to work. You have to set aside a good chunk of time. I'm going to recommend at least a couple of hours. And it's got to be time that you could be uninterrupted. And it has to be time where you feel like you're really investing in yourself. So I do this thing when I'm in Austin, and my friends will laugh about this, but I have this thing called IDN that I do on Friday nights. And I go to the Domain, to my favorite restaurant. I go to Flower Child, and I get dinner, and I get a glass of wine, and I sit out on the patio. I don't sit inside. I sit out on the patio, and I have my laptop, and I write, or I have my notebook, and I scribble. And you want to know what IDN stands for? It stands for Introvert Date Night. because I'm such an introvert and it's my time to recharge. I don't have to sit there and be on stage. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to be brilliant. I can just be by myself and really concentrate on the stuff that's really important to me. And for me, one of those things lately has been working on a new book. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But find some time. For me, IDN is like a minimum of 2 hours. Like I'm sitting out there until they say, hey, lady, you know, it's time to go. I sit there and I concentrate on the things that are really important to me. So that's what you're going to do with this audit. Set that time aside. Also, I want you to be really scrupulous. I don't want you to just say, oh, you know, Thursday I was in class, I went to work, I slept, you know, I got up, I did laundry. I don't want you to be that broad. You have to be really specific about what you're going to write on your audit. So I want you to be mega detailed at this point. And for those of you who are like me, not super detailed, I'm definitely way more in the whole big picture visionary kind of thing. You have to be really, really specific. So did you do laundry? Okay, put that there. I went to the grocery store, I went grocery shopping. I went to my consumer behavior class with Professor Villanueva, and I was online for an hour doing paperwork. I went and spent 2 hours with my friends at the movies. Whatever it is, I want you to be super, super specific. And as I said, at least one of the days, whether you're doing three days or all 7, at least one of those days has to be a weekend, because that's going to be a little bit different. For most of us, our weekends are different from our weekdays. So I want you to pick those days and I want you to be super, super specific. And here's the other thing. Don't prejudge. As you're writing down these things, I don't want you to start feeling guilty, like, oh, wow, you know, I spent 30 minutes on schoolwork this week and I spent 25 hours watching anime. Tristan, my son loves anime. I don't want you to judge anything. You're just writing down what you did, whatever it is. If you start to say, oh, that wasn't so great, or I should have done that. Should is a bad word. Okay, so just wait. Don't prejudge. All right, so here's your sheet. Now, you're not going to just have one of these. You're going to print this out. You're going to print these out, and you're going to have a boatload of them. I want you to just keep them all together. This is just an example. I want your professional stuff. And for you guys, if that means, you know, you have a part-time job or your schoolwork, that goes in this category. And for those of you who are just in business, that's this category. Then your personal life, the stuff that you did in your personal life. And it can be the stuff that's, you know, super sexy, like doing laundry, or it can be stuff like hanging out with friends or any of those kinds of things that goes in your personal. And so you're going to ask yourself these questions. First of all, did you have to do it or did you want to do it? It's a pretty basic question. But here's the thing, sometimes it's going to go a little both ways. So for me, being a business owner, there are times when I have to go in and I have to really engage in the financials. And you know what? I got an MBA for a reason, but I didn't get it for the reason to do all of that stuff. But I have to do it because I own a business. I'm not just going to give it to my CPA, just give it to my bookkeeper. I have to know my way around my numbers. So I have to do it. But you know what? I want to do it because if I want to be a responsible businesswoman, I need to know what's happening in my business. So there are going to be some of these that sort of transcend the have to, want to. Some of them are going to be super, super clear cut. And then I want you to answer the question, were you marking time the whole time you did it, or did you lose track of time? How many of you guys are familiar with all of the research around flow? Yeah, okay. You'll get to it at some point in your academic career. The idea of flow is when you get to that point where time is just meaningless. Like you are just in the flow of things. You're doing it, you're learning it, whatever. It's you don't even notice what time it is. Whereas when we're doing things that we just don't really want to do, how many times are you looking at your watch? Oh my gosh, it's only been 5 minutes since I looked last. Whereas when you're doing something that's really in that want to space, you can look up and go, oh my gosh, it's been 4 hours. I completely forgot to eat. had no idea what time it was. You look up and it's like dark outside. Oh my gosh, had no idea. That's flow. And so that's the want to. That's sort of the nirvana of the want tos. So put in there, did you mark time or did you just lose track of time? And then the third one is super, super important. Can you connect that activity to a meaningful outcome? There's a lot of research that shows that people are not all that motivated by money. Now, for you guys as college students, you're like, yeah, no, that's not actually correct. I'm highly motivated by money, and I get that. But once you're out and you're in the business world and you're looking for those jobs, yes, of course, you want to be paid a salary that is commensurate with your experience, that shows respect for what you've learned and what you bring to the company, right? We all want to be compensated appropriately. Well, what the research shows is that people are far more motivated by knowing that there is an achievable, meaningful outcome, that what you do today matters. Now, for some of you guys in the business department, you will have all heard this story, but for some of you, it may be new. But there was a time when President Kennedy was at NASA. And he was walking around, and then, we're just going to send a man into space, and he's looking around and he's doing the whole tour. And he's with his whole entourage, and it's the President of the United States. And he comes down this hallway and he sees a janitor. And he says to him, "What are you doing? What do you do here?" And he says, "I'm putting a man in space." He was going in to clean the bathroom. But how did he view what he was doing, what his contribution was? I'm putting a man in space. That's why he got up every day. That's why he came to work every day, because he could take what he's doing, that particular activity, and he could map it to something that was hugely meaningful. The research shows that that's what motivates us far more than just great salaries, great benefits, whatever. Can you map that activity to a meaningful outcome? Now, going back to my laundry example, can you map that to a meaningful outcome? Maybe not. But you know what? Maybe you've got a great date that night and you need clean clothes and you know that this is going to make you look really good. That's a pretty meaningful outcome. So map it to that. And if you can't, then you can't. It's, again, don't prejudge. There's no shoulds here. We're just looking for answers. Don't even think beyond filling in those little boxes. And then lastly, how did it make you feel? How did it make you feel? Were you bored? Were you annoyed that you had to do it? Or did you feel special? Like this is really important work. What I just did, that's really important. I mean, I know when I was doing my MBA, I was working 60 hours a week at my day job. I was training in martial arts 5 days a week, and I was raising a family. And I was going to school at night, and I would work on papers 2 or 3 nights a week. My entire Saturday was doing papers, and I would work. But I had this sense of accomplishment, even though sometimes it was like, oh my gosh, this isn't a class I'm terribly interested in. But I had a sense of accomplishment. There was a meaningful outcome, and it made me feel really good, because I knew at the end of the week, I'm going to be dead tired, but I also knew that I had done something really special, because there's a lot of other people who go to their day job, they work their 40, 50, they come home, they cook dinner, they sit in front of the TV, have a beer, have a pint of ice cream, whatever, sleep in on Saturday mornings, go to Dunkin' Donuts, and know what? I'm grinding it. And you know what? It made me feel good. I felt accomplished. I felt special. So I want you to answer, when you did that particular activity, how did that make you feel? And again, just doesn't have to be super long. I was bored. I was mad. I felt special. I felt wonderful. I felt invigorated. I felt empowered. Whatever it is, 1 or 2 words, put it in that box. And so now, can you imagine how long this is going to take you? This is not a 30-minute exercise. This is going to take you a while. And you're going to go through and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to start off with, let's say I'm going to do my 3-day thing. This is too daunting for me saying I'm going to do a 3-day thing. So I'm going to look at Thursday. What did I do Thursday? What time did I wake up? What did I do when I got up? What did I do next? I'm going to go through, what time did I go to bed? Okay, I've done that. Now this has taken me 4 pages. I've just done Thursday. I'm going to do Friday. Now I'm going to do Saturday. And I don't want you prejudging, and I don't want you to feel like you have to write War and Peace in any one of these boxes. They should be very simple, just a few words, but be honest. That's the key. You have to be honest. If you truly did get up and you didn't even bother brushing your teeth and you watched 20 hours of anime and then you rolled over and went back to bed, cool, write that down. Don't judge, write it down. How did it make you feel? Were there any meaningful outcomes that came as a result of that activity? And did time just fly? Probably, yeah. Next thing you looked at, you're like, holy crap, I just watched 20 hours of anime. Okay, cool. Write it down, don't judge. Is everybody really clear on the whole idea of not judging? It's really super important as you're doing this audit. Okay, once you get it done, step away. Don't do this immediately after it's done. Step away. You're going to want to take like a day where you're not looking at this. Then once you have had that little bit of distance, now you're going to look back at this, and now you're going to put your analytical hat on. Now you're going to start looking for trends. So you're going to start, and I like to color code it. That's just me. I'm super visual, but find a way that makes sense to you, to where you can start seeing the trends. Where are the times and the activities where you felt great, where you felt smart, you felt powerful, you felt accomplished, you felt wonderful? Where are those places in your life where you just lit up, where when you filled out that form, you got a smile on your face? You started remembering, you started feeling really good about that. Where are those things? And conversely, where are those things that suck the life out of you? The things that you just feel miserable after you've done them. And then there's going to be those things that are just kind of very innocuous. It's like, yeah, I had to do it. Didn't feel one way particularly or another. And, it was fine. I wasn't looking at my clock every time, but it didn't fly through. And, there's no real meaningful outcome here, but, whatever, it's got to be done. Cool. Put that on there too. You're going to start looking at trends. Keep in mind that passion, the times when you really light up, where you see time just flew, I felt great, it doesn't always align to the extracurricular stuff. Yeah, we all feel great when we get to go on vacation. We can also feel really great when we're doing important work that's meaningful. Like, I didn't get a degree in marketing because I hated marketing. It was something that I loved. So when I'm working with a client, even when they're a pain in the butt client, when I'm working with a client, like, I'm in the zone. Like, that's what I do. That's what I do. Oh, you need branding? Great. Let's sit down. Let's talk this through. Okay, here's the questions. Bam, 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 bam. I sat yesterday for almost an hour with a CEO of a cybersecurity firm. And it was so cool asking him questions about what lights him up. What does he see? What's their place in the world? That's really, really fun. I had a great time. After an hour, I got like, yeah, that was great. That was really fun. Now I can't wait to go on and write their literature and do some work for them. So it's not always just going to be the fun stuff. It's going to sometimes be work. And if it is your work, if you're passionate about your work and it's a want to, and it lights you up, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. Finding out what's not your passion is almost as important as finding, or it can be as important as finding out what is your passion. Because there's going to be some of you guys who are in the disciplines that you are in because, and forgive me for saying this, mommy and daddy thought that's where you should be. And you've gotten a year into school, 2 years, 4 years into school, and you're like, I hate this. This sucks the freaking life out of me. We all, at our age, we all know people who've gotten to be
40, 50 years old, and they're, I'll pick the finance thing because obviously that's a theme for me, they've been a CPA for years and they're like, gosh, I've made a great living at this, I've been really successful, but what I really want to do is open a yoga school. That's what I've really always wanted to do. Don't get so far into something that sucks the life out of you, even if you're good at it. Come back to the things that light you up. Now, sometimes that's a really difficult conversation with your families. I realize that, hey, I know you thought you were paying for 4 years of school and it's going to actually be 6 because I'm changing my major. Sometimes you have to have those difficult conversations. But it's really, really important now to do the audit and to understand the truth of what lights you up, what's really going to make you passionate. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my students, I've had him since he was itty bitty. I think he was 4 or 5 when he started with me. He just graduated from Duke. And so mom's a doctor, dad's a big software guru. I think he works for Oracle, super, super high powered family. Kid thought he was going to go into medicine. And before he left for Duke, he asked me if he could come in and sit and talk with me. And I wrote him a glowing letter of recommendation. Great, awesome kid. We sit down in my office and he says, ma'am, I think I would be a teacher. I said, really? I said, yeah, I'm going to talk to my parents this weekend. I want to change my major to history and philosophy, and I want to teach, because he'd been teaching at the martial arts school and it lit him up. He loved imparting knowledge. He loved teaching. He loved coming up with lesson plans. He loved it. And when he thought about, the path that he thought he was supposed to take, because that's what he should do, he knew he could do it. He was a great student, straight A kid at Vandergrift, great student, but it didn't light him up. Well, guess what? He's teaching high school in Dallas right now. First year is teaching, and got his history degree at Duke. And the other thing that really lit him up was martial arts. And so at Duke, he decided to go into the Taekwondo club. Now, my school is an MMA club. Taekwondo is part of what we do, but he started taking Taekwondo and he tested for his black belt, and he ended up being the national collegiate champion in Taekwondo his last year at Duke. Completely revamped his life because he realized what it was that really lit him up, where his passion was. He had the have to. Yeah, I'm going to make a boatload of money. I'm going to be a doctor. I know I'm going to do great work. But you know what? Instead, I'd really like to go and make no money and teach high school, because that's where his heart was. All right. Please, again, I know I've been beating this to death, but let me just say it again. Don't judge what you see. This is just information. I have often told my clients, I do a lot of leadership training. I tell my clients all the time, life is like a math problem. Set it up the right way, isolate the variable, solve for X. There's your answer. You don't need to get super worked up about the guilt. I ought to be doing this. I should have been doing that. Let it go. It's not helpful. It does not serve you. Right now, what we're doing is we're setting up the problem and we're isolating the variable. So as you go into your audit, be ruthless with yourself and be honest about what exactly you did, how you felt about it, and if you can connect it to something meaningful. Because what I consider a meaningful outcome is not necessarily what you consider a meaningful outcome. It has to be meaningful to you. All right. Now you've found it. You go through this big, long audit. You spend all these hours. You go to the domain and you have an IDN at Flower Child and you sit out on the patio and you get this all done. And now what? Well, what I see a lot of time with my clients is they go one of two ways. They're either like, woohoo, man, I know what it is now. This is my want to. I'm going to scrap my entire life and I'm going to go this direction. Yeah, don't do that. Other clients will go, Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I sure would love to have that life, but you know what? That's just not for me. I'm too far down the path on this. I'm stuck with this. This is my life. Don't do that. Be willing to iterate and take the smaller steps to get to that have-to life, to find that passion, to integrate it into what you do on the daily. Now, listen, I don't spend every moment of every day doing stuff I want to do. My life is not completely 100% passion-filled. Everybody has to do stuff we don't like. Every one of us has to do it. I still have to scrub the toilets in my house. That it has to be done. I can show meaningful outcomes if I do it properly. But you want to move towards that want to view of life, away from the simply have to, because I'm telling you, even if you feel like, I'm just grinding it out, I'm just doing the right thing, there comes a time when you're 20 or you're 40 or you're 60 where you go, you know what? Sucking the life out of me. And I go back to Nelson Mandela. It's not possible to live a life of passion if I'm just going to live small like that. So first of all, do your audit. Do the analysis. Figure out where those trends are. Start seeing the things that light you up and see what the surprises might be. And then make it a priority to live a life that lights you up, that brings you joy. Make it a priority. And then make a plan. You have to figure out how to do it. And be willing to iterate, to be incremental, to make small steps. This week, it's a little bit different. This year, it's a little bit different. Maybe it's going to be 10 years before you get to that life that you can say, yeah, this is truly the life that I want to live. Maybe it's next week. Who knows? But be willing to take the small steps and to take those joys as you go and build on them. And be willing to sacrifice. Because it's not just nonstop fun and joy when you decide to live a life of passion. Because sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to say no to something that's really awesome to get to where you want to be. And it's important to recognize that and to incorporate that into your planning. I'll tell you a little bit about how my life changed and the sacrifices that I made. This is New Smyrna Beach, Florida. This takes me 2 minutes to get to from my front door. Had a big house in Lakeway, sold my house here, bought a little tiny bitty cottage across the street from that. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. But you know what I did? I did it incrementally. I had to take baby steps to do it. I have a martial arts studio in Austin. And at the time, I was working at Concordia. So I had to figure out a way to sell my house in Austin, buy a place in New Smyrna Beach. Now you're thinking like, oh, wow, first world problems. But no, I'm telling you, it was not an easy thing to do. I'm a single parent trying to figure out how to move over there, how to still work here. What am I going to do? I can't have 2 houses. I could barely afford one. And I had to find a way to make it happen. And I had to be willing to make the sacrifices to do it. I took this picture 5 days ago at 6:45 in the morning, because when you're on the East Coast, the sun rises in the ocean. For this California girl, it took me a minute because I'm used to it setting in the ocean, but it actually rises in the ocean. This is me out walking one morning last week. That's the payoff. That's the want to. That's the passion. But I had to make some sacrifices. Here's my sacrifice. This is one of my sons. This is my 3rd kid, 2nd son. And he lived in California. He was thinking about moving. And I was thinking about a house in Florida that I couldn't figure out how to live there, but work here, have my studio. We had 4 dogs. What am I going to do? So I work it out with Alex to go and live in my house in Florida. Now, for him, you think, well, that's not much of a sacrifice. Oh, he gets to live at the beach rent free. But, you know, he's giving up his life and he's moving to Florida. He's never been to Florida. He's a massage therapist. He had to go through his classes to get certified to be able to go to Florida and work in Florida. And then he had to pick me up at the airport and drop me off and back and forth as I was going between 2 states for 5 years. I've been really nomadic for 5 years. When I'm in Austin, I'm like a starving college student. My best friend, we've been best friends since we were 11. I stay in her spare bedroom up in Spicewood. And I'm like, you know, the proverbial, you know, crashing on somebody's house. I'm living out of a suitcase and I'm going back and forth and back and forth. For 5 years, I did that. That's not a great life, but it's not a bad life either when you get to have that. And so I made the sacrifice to sleep in my friend's bedroom and have a little wedge of space in the refrigerator and, you know, manage things here in Austin so that I could come back to this. And it wasn't overnight. It was little bits and pieces that this happened. When you decide, when you figure out what it is that you want, what really is important, and for me at my age, it was having the freedom to live someplace that was beautiful, that I loved. You know, again, coming from California, I'm a beach girl. You know, it was really important for me to move someplace like that. When you find the thing that really lights you up, that is really important to you, that you're willing to sacrifice for, like basically I've been living out of a suitcase for 5 years. That's when you can live a life of passion. That's when you can start having the want tos. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's incremental, it's staged, and it's sacrifices. But it's so worth it. So how do you do it? First of all, you got to believe that it's possible. You know, when you start doing that audit and you look at all the things that are really wonderful and you think, oh, wouldn't it be so nice if more of my life was like that? Right now, it's like 10% of my life. 90% of my life is have tos. 90% of my life sucks the life out of me. First of all, you have to believe that it's possible to truly live a life of passion that you want to live, a life that you wake up every morning and you can't wait to get to it. Believe. Number 2, you have to identify what that is, because what it is for you is very different from what it is for me. For me right now, you know, it's completely different from a 20-year-old in college. I'm writing books. I'm sitting on the beach. I'm working with clients. I'm working at home. That's the life that I want. That's not the life that you guys are after. Find the life that you want. Identify that. And that's what that audit is for. That's going to show you the areas that are really important to you. And then lastly, you got to make a plan. You got to figure out how to make it happen. And if it's not something that you could do on your own, get some help. Get somebody who can, I could not have done my plan without my son being willing to move from one coast to the other coast and to take care of my house. And it's not like he's just, you know, freeloading, like he's the property manager. He takes care of the dogs. He made sure that the fence got put in. He handles it when the HVAC, you know, needs repair, whatever. Like he's making sacrifices too. So you can't do it all on your own. Find somebody who's going to believe in you, who's going to believe in your vision, who's going to give you advice and help and bolster you when maybe it doesn't quite go so well the first time out. You're going to need somebody who can help. So make a good plan that you can stick with. Oops. You don't need to see Alex again. Be fearless. I'm not saying be reckless. Be fearless. Be fearless. And of course, as a martial artist, I have to tell you, just punch today in the face. Just get up in the morning, punch today in the face. Have a great day because you're doing the things that are important to you, the things that you love, the things that are meaningful to you. Shameless plug, I have written a book called Don't Fight Mad. And it is a story, part of it is memoir, part of it is self-help. And I talk about how you can live that life of joy. And I use martial arts as a metaphor for life. I actually brought a couple of books with me. So anybody who's going to ask me really, really good questions is going to get a book and a journal. But part of one of the things that really lights me up is writing. So I contributed to one book. I was a co-author on one. I wrote this book a couple of years ago, and the last legs of writing my first novel. That's the sort of thing that lights me up, that I get really excited about. I get up every morning and I sit down and I write because that's what I'm passionate about. You got to find the stuff that you're really super passionate about. And then when you do, like, go for it. Be fearless. Punch today in the face. This was a thing that on my audit that I could say, how did it make me feel? It made me feel great. It made me feel wonderful.
So wanted to say again, thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing your story, your passion, your leadership, and your example.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you guys.